Hidetaka Miyazaki was born in the city of Shizuoka, Japan on September 19, 1974. As he grew up, so too in turn would grow his love of reading. With parents too poor to afford to buy him books, he frequently found himself visiting his local library to seek out new stories, particularly in the genres of science fiction and fantasy. Often he would encounter books written in English, of which he had only a minor understanding of. His experiences with these books often led to him filling in these gaps in understanding with his own imagination, taking what little he knew and extrapolating from illustrations to arrive at a story of his own. It was these experiences that would inform what is to me his most influential design philosophy. He graduated from Keio University with a degree in social sciences, and it wasn't too long afterward where he would find employment as an accountant at the Oracle Corporation, a United States-based software company. He would continue to work here for several years, helping to pay off his sister's own college tuition, until a sudden and radical decision would change the trajectory of his life forever. Restricted from playing video games as a child, his other outlets for imagination had drifted towards popular tabletop role-playing games such as RuneQuest, Steve Jackson's Sorcery, and the well-known Dungeons & Dragons, all of which he cites as heavy influences on his design philosophy. His first real experience with video games wouldn't be until, at the recommendation of a friend, he played the 2001 action-adventure video game, Ico. Enthralled by this beautiful new medium, Miyazaki would immediately choose to pivot his career into an entirely new area, something rather atypical in Japan. According to Miyazaki himself, he had never really felt true ambition as a child, pursuing his degree with no real idea what he wanted from it. Something in Ico awoke a passion he had never truly felt before. Though too old for a graduate position and fairly inexperienced in the field, Hidetaka would land a stroke of luck when some well-meaning higher-up at gaming development company From Software would decide to give him a chance. Hired in 2004 and starting as a developer on the Armored Core series before quickly rising through the ranks, Miyazaki would push for and succeed in taking over the development for a failing game at the company, one that he would radically rework into an entirely new idea, discarding practically everything but the name. Demon's Souls. Though reception was mixed when the game first launched in Japan, word quickly spread about the intricate map building, the complex systems, the difficult combat. In a few months, the game had sold 100,000 copies. From Software was able to secure the rights to distribute the game in the US, increasing the game's reach significantly and all but ensuring Demon's Souls' success. More games would follow. Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, Elden Ring. All of these games are riddled with Miyazaki's design philosophy, but for this video I would like to focus in on one franchise in particular. The first Dark Souls game was initially released in Japan on September 22, 2011, with Western audiences receiving it a month later in October. Riding off of the success of Demon's Souls and considered its spiritual successor, Dark Souls would nevertheless make a name for its own. Spawning two sequels, one in 2014 and the other in 2016, the three games all follow a similar formula. You, the player, are dropped into the world of Lordran with the eventual goal of defeating 4 great lords, with many other enemies standing in the way. You don't really know why you're doing this, and you may never fully understand. Characters lie, mislead, or simply don't know. All the information available to you is hidden away in item descriptions, short sentence conversations with random shopkeepers, and the whims of the gods. The only thing that you truly know for certain is that you are undead and the world is in shambles. How it got this way will be revealed to you over time, but what little you are given still leaves you with more questions than answers. To find the truth of this world, you have to fill in the gaps yourself, either by seeking out more information or making it up as you go along. Much the same as when he was a child reading books he couldn't understand, Miyazaki wanted to capture and convey a similar sense of wonder and mystery in the player. That isn't to say that there is no overarching truth to this world. In order to produce the satisfaction of comprehension, there first needs to be the process of comprehension. Furthermore, the overarching idea at hand needs to be something that is actually comprehensible. Hidetaka Miyazaki. What I take this to mean is, much like how the books he read as a child clearly had stories to tell even if he couldn't understand all of them, the history of Lordran has a true interpretation. Miyazaki is simply more interested in capturing people's imaginations and driving them to come up with their own stories, just like he did when he was a child. Art is inherently collaborative. There is what the artist intended, and there's what the observer sees. Sometimes these can be the same thing. Sometimes they can differ radically. This is often what makes for the longest-lasting art in many mediums. Discussion and debate drive people to remember the things that captured their attention so strongly. Opinion is a powerful influence on artistic interpretation, and some narratives can be dramatically shifted by even just one simple differing opinion. I can think of no other character that more perfectly encapsulates this concept than one: Snuggly the Crow. Located in the tutorial area of Dark Souls, referred to as the Undead Asylum, in a nest perched precariously on the edge of a cliff lies an invisible NPC, or non-player character, that will give you rare items in exchange for certain treasures. Because she asks for these items using the very vague request of, quote, "give me soft, give me warm," and is also situated quite close to a large crow that happens to reside nearby, the community began colloquially and affectionately referring to her as Snuggly the Crow. Of course, this was never a name intended for her by the developers. In fact, allegedly, they didn't even intend for her to be a crow. Located deep in the game files where few people get to see, her name is reportedly Hawk Girl, or Hawk's Daughter, depending on the translation. And yet, a crow she has become, as most people will never even know the original intention behind her character. Does it ultimately matter, in the grand scheme of this fictional world, whether she is a hawk or a crow? What does it change about our understanding of Lordran? Very little, and yet so much at the same time. Such a simple character, to me, perfectly represents Miyazaki's ultimate goal of building a world that he and the players created together. Many people have tried to emulate what exactly made Dark Souls so special, to varying degrees of success. An entirely new genre would arise out of these games, dubbed Souls-like. Many people would expand and innovate on the combat in unique and interesting ways. More still, drawing inspiration from Miyazaki's boss design philosophy of tough but fair movesets. A lot of them create new and beautiful worlds, kingdoms, and legacies for their stories. But this is something that I feel not a lot of them get right. This sense of sharing in the creation of something tends to be lost along the way. That is what I think makes Dark Souls and Hidetaka Miyazaki's entire design philosophy so special.